So we've explored why do smart people believe in undirected macroevolution. Now, towards the end of that exploration, there would be what I would call hints that, well, maybe undirected macroevolution isn't all that scientific. Let's explore, is there some sort of religious component to it? Let's use this as a starting point. Richard Dawkins, he does have a PhD in a related biological field. He wrote a book called The Blind Watchmaker, and he says on page 6, although atheism might have been logically tenable before Darwin, Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. Well, it wasn't Darwin the person. It was Darwin's theory of undirected macroevolution that made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. How so? What was it about undirected macroevolution that filled some gap for the atheist? So is undirected macroevolution somehow connected to atheism? Let's explore that. We're going to look at a series of quotes from knowledgeable people who have been involved in the field of evolution or have studied the field of evolution as a profession. The first one is a quote by Dr. Michael Ruth. He says, evolution is promoted by its practitioners as more than mere science. Evolution is promulgated as an ideology, a secular religion, a full-fledged alternative to Christianity with meaning and morality. I, Dr. Michael Ruth, am an ardent evolutionist and an ex-Christian. But I must admit that in this one complaint, the literalists are absolutely right. Evolution is a religion. That was true of evolution in the beginning, and it is true of evolution still today. Evolution therefore came into being as a kind of secular ideology, an explicit substitute for Christianity. Now, a couple of points here. This is someone who has studied evolution as their professional career. He was a philosopher, but he was well versed in evolution. He points out that evolution is an ideology, a secular religion. Now, is he saying this as a Christian? No, he's saying this as an ardent evolutionist and an ex-Christian. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the best kind of evidence. He is a hostile witness to Christianity or the supernatural. And what he does point out is that an alternative to religion must be another religion. Evolution is an explicit substitute for Christianity. Here is another quote. And this is an interesting quote here because he makes a couple of distinctions. He says there is professional evolutionary biology, mathematical, experimental, not laden with value statements, but you are not going to find the answers to the world's mysteries or to the societal problems if you open the pages of evolution or animal behavior. Those are scientific journals. Then sometimes from the same person, you have evolution as secular religion, generally working from an explicitly materialist background and solving all of the world's major problems from racism to education to conservation. So he makes two distinctions here. He talks about the professional evolutionary biology scientist who uses statistics as math and experiments, and he goes about his business and he reports on them in the journals of evolution or animal behavior. But the very same scientist views evolution as a secular religion, and he wants to solve problems, social problems like racism or education or for conservation. Problems unrelated to science, but that fit into the moral realm, the religious realm. So again, we see his view that evolution can function as part of a secular religion. Again, an alternative to religion, an alternative to Christianity, it must be another religion. He also, in that, just to be clear, he made two comments, two categories. One was the biological scientist, and then the evolutionist as secular religion. Then he talks about the third one, where there is indeed a thriving area of more popular evolutionism. By popular, I think he means pop culture, as in TV or movies, where evolution is used to underpin claims about the nature of the universe, the meaning of it for all us humans, and the way we should behave. I'm not saying that this area is all bad or that it should be stamped out. I am all in favor of saving the rainforest. I'm saying that this popular evolutionism is often an alternative to religion exists. Again, he says that evolution functions as a religion. This popular evolutionism is not only functioning, it is an alternate religion. Will Provine was an American historian of science who specialized in the history of evolutionary biology and population genetics. In a keynote address, he said that evolution is the greatest engine of atheism ever invented. What he meant by evolution was not directed evolution. He meant undirected macroevolution is the greatest engine of atheism ever invented. Here we find undirected macroevolution is a tool for the growth of the religion of atheism. In case you weren't aware, atheism is a religion. We'll explore that in a minute. Another quote by Dr. Michael Roos, just to crystallize this. He says, "It's sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. If theism cannot be taught in schools in America because it violates the separation of church and state, why then should Darwinism be permitted? If Darwinism leads to atheism, does this not also violate the separation of church and state? If undirected macroevolution leads to atheism, does this not also violate the separation of church and state?" Here we find undirected macroevolution as a tool for the growth of the religion of atheism. In some sense, it is the tool of evangelism for atheism. So we've looked at all this. We have these quotes from very knowledgeable people. So can we define evolution as religion? Well, scientists are humans. And sometimes scientists make claims that are not scientific. They overreach or exaggerate, claiming things that don't have evidence, but they wish them to be true. These claims address religious questions, but the fact that these claims are addressing religious questions may not be obvious because it's coming again from a scientist. So evolution as religion is when a scientist makes a religious claim using evolutionary language or concepts. Let's explore this next. We'll go down to the next level. Here there are 4 key religious questions, and we'll explore the answers. These are not scientific questions in the sense of they can be tested using multiple experiments. These are religious questions. The first question is, how did I come to exist? The second question is, what is my purpose? The third is, what happens when I die? The fourth is, does my life have any long-lasting impact? If we look at Christianity, the answer to the question, how did I come to exist, is everything, including you, was purposely designed by a benevolent creator. If you ask, what is my purpose? The answer is to have a relationship with your creator through the forgiveness of sin through faith. What happens when I die? Well, you continue to exist and will exist for eternity. Does my life have any long-lasting impact? Yes, because you can tell other people to have a relationship with their creator. 4 questions, 4 answers from Christianity. Now let's look at the answers from the atheism side of things. If I'm an atheist and I ask, how did I come to exist? The answer is small blind chance changes happen and they accumulate by accident. What is my purpose? Your purpose is to replicate your genes. What happens when I die? Well, you're only material bits, so you cease to exist. The material bits still exist, though. Does my life have any long-lasting impact? No, you're just a chemical machine that decays into dust. These would be the answers that atheism would give to these 4 questions. Let's look at that first one. How did I come to exist? It says small blind chance changes happen and they accumulate by accident. Dear audience, that is the definition of undirected macroevolution. Here is a key finding. Undirected macroevolution is atheism's creation story for man. If we were to go back to what we first heard, that Darwin made it possible to be an intellectually fulfilled atheist. Why? Because undirected macroevolution explains how man came to be for atheists. It's atheism's creation story for man. This means that when people talk about evolution being a science versus Christianity situation, it's untrue. No. It is really the religion of atheism versus other religions when it comes to explaining the question, how did I come to exist? Again, it's not science versus Christianity. That's a very simplistic and wrong way of looking at this. It's really the religion of atheism versus other religions in explaining how man came to be. Now, let's just pose the question, what if undirected macroevolution is false? What are the implications? Well, undirected macroevolution as a concept has influenced other disciplines. I did a quick study of syllabuses from universities, and some of the disciplines that came up were evolutionary sociology, sociocultural evolution, evolutionary anthropology, evolutionary psychology. These are all undirected evolution when we're talking about this. If undirected macroevolution is wrong, then this research is most likely wrong. It could be wrong just because it's false. So how can we detect nonsense related to undirected macroevolution if there are, I'll just suggest, biased experts in many fields? We need a nonsense detector.